as part of it, our staff has really taken hold of it. Um, we've kind of given them direction and a budget to go find things to do in their community. So every branch gets a certain amount of money that they can spend any way they choose. There's a few parameters in there, but everyone that works here can use their best judgment and just get involved in things that they want to, that either they're very passionate about or try to um, work on a specific need in their community. And we don't require that the teams take photos of anything. We certainly like to hear about the activities, but we don't try and force the marketing aspect of it. But the staff has really run with that for us, and they do take photos. They like anything else. They like to see that stuff featured on Facebook
Mhm.
and Twitter and Instagram. They like to see it. They love to represent the company well.
Today, I have with me an incredible guest. I'm really excited to talk to him about his career, about his life, and about a little bit about his family. And his name is Michael Hostetler. He's the vice president of marketing for Crane Credit Union out of Indiana. And welcome to the show, Michael.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you here. We were just discussing a little bit pre-show about your career, and I think you've had a fantastic career in the financial space. How did you get in and end up in the financial branding space?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. When I was in college, I was in the business school at Indiana University, and one of the big aspects of that education is that they really encourage you to find an internship opportunity and find a business to work with to get some real life experience. And I didn't know exactly where to turn. I had worked at a golf course, through junior high and high school. That was the extent of my business contacts. And my uncle actually worked for a credit union. He was in charge of IT at a credit union in Indianapolis. So the summer after my sophomore year at IU, I did an internship at a credit union in Indianapolis, and I worked in their lending department
Okay, interesting. So it wasn't it didn't
and
start
processed
out.
car loan applications for a whole summer.
Okay, fascinating. So it didn't start out in marketing then.
No, I was kind of when I was in college, I knew that I wanted to do something business related, and I started off kind of on a accounting and finance track. So by my sophomore year, I didn't really have to make that determination yet as to what I wanted to go to. So working for a financial institution seemed like a good idea, and it was
Sure.
a really great job. That was at the peak of auto lending, and you would come in every day at 8 o'clock and do applications till it was time to go home. So it's a fascinating way to learn about personal finance and credit if you look at auto loan applications for a summer.
I bet. So that's a unique combo, and one that I really like to see is the finance marketing combo. So how would you say that that financial background, starting out with the accounting finance side, working with the personal credit histories, how has that helped you in your marketing career? And can you also tell us how you transitioned from finance to marketing?
Uh, Transitioning to the marketing world is a little bit better story. So as part of the business school curriculum at IU, in your junior year, you basically take a semester of really intense coursework in four separate areas. And then you start to learn a little bit more about the accounting and finance side. You'll learn about operations management, and then you learn about marketing. And of those four, marketing really kind of came to the top of my interest. That was I forget what day of the week it was, but it was the first class I had that day, and I always enjoyed going to it. It seemed to stick with me a little bit more, and I really had a great professor, Professor Rockney Walters. I don't know if he's still there or not, but but he had a big influence on me going in that direction. My father had been in marketing before in sales, so was somewhat familiar with it. But I think through that education coursework, I knew didn't really want to be in accounting. It wasn't something I liked. I love our accounting team, but I don't want to do it every day. And finance is kind of the language of business, but it wasn't my thing either. And marketing just kind of stuck. So I had the opportunity to kind of evolve my internship career with the credit union. The subsequent summer, I got to work in the marketing department, and that to me kind of set the path of, okay, this is what I like to do. This is what I'm good at. So let's see if I can make a career out of that.
Awesome. And you have. You're now the vice president of marketing at a credit union. So you started as an intern and went all the way up to vice president.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, it's true. It's always humbling too to think of how long ago that was. It keeps getting further and further away. But I've been really fortunate, kind of finding a really great place in the credit union industry where that type of transformation has been possible. And
That's
it's not
phenomenal.
uncommon to see stories, across the country of employees who start out as frontline staff and tellers who end up becoming CEOs of credit unions. So it's definitely an interesting industry from that perspective that you just don't see too much anymore. That in 15, 20 years time, people are able to go all the way up to the top ranks of a company. So maybe
Mhm.
I'll get to do that someday.
Awesome. Yeah, that will be really cool, and I'll be honored to say we had you on the show at one point. That's awesome, Michael. So tell me a little bit about Crane Credit Union in the banking space, especially in the local banking space. From what I understand, it's hyper competitive to get people to open accounts and to establish a presence with you. What are you doing on the marketing side to really set up Crane as a an option for people in your in Indiana?
I've been with Crane for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in June.
Mhm.
And in that time period, the credit union has seen a very impressive amount of growth. In June, we announced two bank acquisitions, one
Oh
of which we're
wow!
getting ready to close in the next few weeks. The second one will close in the middle of next year, and that's really been a big driving force, around why we have grown so much so quickly. I think by the end of this year, we'll be about a $900 million institution.
Wow!
When we started with the credit union back in June 2015, it was 450 million. So if it's doubled in those 6 years, I would say that's just as much as any other credit union has done in the country.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
and it,
incredible.
and we are in a competitive marketplace. We do have some branches near the Indianapolis MSA. So there are a lot of big banks in that area, and certainly as you go further down south towards the Kentucky border, anyone familiar with Indiana, we have several branches in the Evansville area, which is very competitive and home to several very successful credit unions. So we try to position ourselves always as an alternative choice. Most people are very familiar with banks, and some are more familiar with community banks, and credit unions are kind of the third option. But we always feel that we are a worthwhile option in terms of technology. We offer many of the same services that big banks do. But when you start digging into rate and fee structures and how the credit union is organized and set up, the financial relationship with the member becomes even more important. Credit unions are not for profit organizations. The profits we
Mhm.
make are returned back to our members in the form of higher dividends and lower fees. And we turn that money back around and invest in the credit union and improve it and invest in our local communities. Business lending has been a big discussion topic this year, especially with the pandemic. And
Mhm.
I think our members like to feel part of something much bigger than uh, what a big bank offers. When you are a member of a credit union, you are a shareholder and a stakeholder in the credit union, and your money is turned around to do good things. So we try and make sure that message resonates as often as possible. And we find that once you are a credit union member, It's very rare that you go back to a big bank. So getting them is the hard part, but getting them to stick around seems to be easier than some other businesses may have.
Interesting. So retention isn't that much of a problem, or maybe not that much of a focus on the marketing side because the customer experience itself is so good that they stick around.
Right. One of the things that we talk about as a group, especially from a marketing department, when we're talking with other people in the credit union, we with our budget, we can count on a pretty consistent number of new members every month.
Okay.
But the difference that we see is in the net growth of the credit union. So once you start looking at that membership base, what you find is that we don't lose that many members. Most of them really stick around. And part of that is a great service experience. And part of that is in some of the communities that we have, which can be in particularly rural locations, there's not a lot of banking options.
Mm,
So once you get people to take a chance on the credit union and they do stick around, it's very, uh, we're less likely to lose them than maybe a bigger competitor might be. So we try and drive that home with our staff that even if we help get them in the door, it's that great service experience that keeps them around and making sure everything works properly. And when that member does have a problem or an issue, that we take care of it appropriately. And that's really helped our membership grow a lot since I've been here.
okay. Wonderful. You mentioned a metric called net growth. How is that defined at a credit union? What is net growth to a credit union?
Well, if we look at membership specifically, we'll look at the number of members that we add each month, and we add members through people who want to come in and do all their banking with us and make us our primary institution, or they may come to us for just a loan or something like that. And then we subtract the number of members that lose a month. We lose
Mm,
every month, so we're talking about a net membership gain there,
gotcha.
maybe more than net growth. So to me, that's a really important metric to look at. I mean, again, we can look at the number of new members we bring in, but it's kind of meaningless if they turn around and walk out the door 6 months later. So retention is a key metric in our industry, and basically seeing that the investment that member makes in us, carries over from year to year, whether they deposit money with us or they come back to us for future loans. That relationship is key to the overall growth of the credit union.
Fascinating. That metric then reminds me of the monthly active user metric for software as a service. As long as those members are active, it increases the value of the company. So similar with a credit union, maybe active is simply that net growth metric that you just discussed.
Yeah,
It's
we
members
like.
in, subtracting members out.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the challenges that I faced when I started here at Crane 6 years ago, and kind of taking an overall look at the marketing and advertising that was going on, and how we were interacting with our members, our first problem was really just engagement, just getting people
Hmm.
involved and letting them know what was going on with the credit union, sending them more specific marketing offers tailored to their needs and what they should be getting out of the credit union. So that's
Mhm.
always a big part of what we do here every day. And I think that works, starting to pay off. And as marketing has changed even in the last, 5 to 6 years, now we talk more and more about that engagement piece and how important branding is overall. And I think that we got a head start on that, when I came on board, and uh, maybe now finally start to see that come around and benefit us even more.
Very interesting. So, financial branding has sort of been your strength when I look through your bio on LinkedIn, and the fact that you've stayed in the financial industry for 15 plus years. Um, that engagement piece you mentioned, talking about specific needs of the people. What would you say is the highest impact, highest engagement piece specifically that you produce and get out there? What does that look like for a credit union?
Well, I think with especially when you're talking about lending products, I think it's one of those things that, people just don't go and get an auto loan or a mortgage on a whim. You
Hmm.
don't wake up and decide that I think I'm going to go buy a house today.
Hmm.
So so really what we're
Yeah.
working with are some really big, not only financial decisions, but life decisions. and we want to make sure that our members feel comfortable and that we hear what their needs are and listen to them and try to put them in the best financial situation possible. And I think that becomes particularly more difficult this day and age when you have a lot of emerging financial tech companies and software companies who are doing their best to kind of make that relationship less personal, but make it more automated and quick for the individual. So I think credit unions kind of fit a unique need there where, if you have someone who uh, wants a little bit more information, wants to work with a person, wants to have a little bit more empathy in their relationship, I think credit unions fill an interesting space there. And certainly with COVID-19 and home values, especially in Indiana, we've had a lot of opportunities to do new mortgages for folks. People are still purchasing cars and things like that. But when financial stress is high, it's nice to have someone you can count on who will be there to sit there and listen to you. And especially in some of our smaller communities, you know, not only do our employees work there, but they also live in that community and they go to church there and they have kids that play on sports teams there. So, it's a very neighborly attitude, and it really resonates with our culture that you're working with the people that are around you, and I think that has definitely shaped the way we do business, and we are definitely enjoying the better parts of that as you've seen the credit union grow so much so quickly.
Absolutely. So is there a specific tactic or a way that you get that message out that seems to work best? Is it digital? Is it postcards? Is it radio ads? What's working for credit unions these days?
The last couple of years, we've really focused a lot more on the digital marketing side.
Mhm.
Part of that being just the trend of the way advertising was going, and also that we could spend that money much more efficiently. So even though Crane is, it's ending up being a bit of a larger credit union, um, the amount of money that we can spend on marketing is still far less than what you would see with a bigger competitor. So we have to use that money very efficiently. And after these two acquisitions close, by the middle of next year, we'll have 22 branch locations
Mhm.
in Indiana. So there's a few that are close to each other, but many of them are pretty spread apart. So we had to find ways to do a lot more targeted advertising to try and reach those communities, and then try to reach the right age groups and segments who are in the market for financial products. And digital really kind of came through as the best way to do that. Social media has also been a big focus since I've been here. We started with a little less than 700 Facebook likes when I started in June 2015. If things go well in the next few weeks, we'll have 7,000 by the end of
Mhm.
2020. So that's been a lot of fun to watch that grow. And really, the stories there that resonate well with our membership are our activities in the community. They love seeing our people. They love seeing the same faces that they see in a branch out doing volunteer activities and getting involved in their community. So that stuff always goes well. We love to highlight promotions from, like people who were, like I talked about earlier, people who were tellers in a branch and now they're working for our corporate team in some
Mhm.
capacity. Those are always fun stories to tell. So uh, that stuff I think is part of that feel good culture that we're trying to exhibit, and our members like to see that. But digital and social media has become so important to us in the last couple of years that for a credit union that really depended a lot on traditional advertising methods, for the last 50 plus years, it's a whole new game right now for us. We're just trying to stay up with it and see what happens next.
Absolutely. So have you found that storytelling is a lot easier and a lot more effective on digital than traditional media for credit unions?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that you can do with it. I mean,
Mhm.
we have over time realized just how important that was. And certainly from a branding standpoint, we like to talk about that story a lot. And we make no arguments that we work in a fairly commoditized industry. You can go find a bank anywhere. So what sets us apart if we're all selling the same products and services, and we're usually pretty close on rates.
Mhm.
So it really becomes down to anymore, who do you want to do business with? who do you want to be associated with, and who do you want to feel comfortable with. So part of our Crane Cares brand tries to tell that story exactly. Would you rather be part of a big bank uh, with whose profits are benefiting stockholders, in a really large metropolis, or would you rather work with an institution that is near your home, near your work, that has a vested interest in your success? And I think credit unions have found a really interesting niche there. And again, we've continued to grow. Credit unions in Indiana have done pretty well, and
Mhm.
credit unions across the country have continued to sustain themselves and grow as well. So again, just kind of being that alternative choice is an interesting place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me because a checking account is a checking account is a checking account to most people. So it boils down to who do you want to have a checking account with. So it makes sense to really emphasize the who, which I think can be incredibly valued. Excuse me, it can be incredibly valuable to any organization when you emphasize the who, because even as a big corporate company, the who matters in a commoditized market. Would you agree with that?
Well, it can definitely be a differentiator,
A
and
differentiator, at least,
yeah,
yes.
and I think that's an important piece. And one of the things that I've read about a lot recently is that whole concept of conscious capitalism.
Mm,
So if you look at a
yeah.
company like Tom's Shoes, my wife is a big Tom's fan, and I just got her Christmas wish list, and there's an $85 pair of Tom's on there, and they are really cute shoes. But when I've read more about Tom's and realized how much they do on a philanthropic level, and how much of they put into the cost of a pair of shoes, you know, it's that $85 price point, even though high for them, is still pretty, like, that's really expensive. And they're cute shoes and they're fun, but the bigger part of that is showing your support for that company and what they do, and
Mhm.
feeling part of that. So, we certainly don't do that on any type of scale, but that was a big part of when we rebranded the credit union and tried to emphasize more of that Crane Cares philosophy. We felt that really showed more that what we were passionate about, which is not only financial services, but also trying to do positive things where we live and work.
I love it. So you mentioned a rebrand into Crane Cares. What was the brand like before that?
Um, the best way to describe it is untouched and undefined.
Okay.
And when I started here, Crane was well known in the communities it served. It certainly had a very positive reputation, not only as a consumer facing business, but also um, as an organization, especially with amongst other local credit unions. It was just great people, very well run. But from trying to describe what the company was, it was just, well, we're a credit union, and
Hmm.
there wasn't enough story behind that. So the reason why we decided to rebrand is our charter changed, and we were no longer a federal credit union. We became a state chartered credit union, and there was honestly some things in the logo that we didn't like, that we wanted to fix. The We had used to have gold as part of our logo. We thought that was getting a little bit stale and outdated, so we changed that to more of a metallic silver, and kind of cleaned up some of the things that we didn't like with the logo. And then, we just really started talking about the brand and how we wanted to present ourselves. And we had been doing a lot of community activities, and knew that that needed to be part of the story we told and how we wanted to identify ourselves as a company. And our staff just kind of led us in that direction. We found that that was a big part of why they liked their jobs and what they liked doing. So my employee, my marketing specialist, and I, we were traveling somewhere between branches, doing some type of activity one day, and we were just kind of talking about what that tagline should be, what we wanted to do. And Crane Cares was the simplest one, and the one that just seemed to work. So we just ran with it, and it's simple and effective, and I think it helps tell our story. And every day we just try and do that, tell that story a little bit better.
I love that. I love how sometimes the behind the scenes, it's not in some boardroom, it's just on a car ride, or you might get hit with inspiration anywhere you are as a marketer when you're talking with your team. So that's awesome. As soon as you switched Crane Cares or turned Crane Cares on, what kind of an impact did you see? Was it instant, or has it taken years to develop? What what sort of transformation occurred at that point?
Well, I think it's still very new. It's hard to tell, but I think the activities that we were engaging in as a company really preceded turning that into a brand, and that's kind of was a big part of that brand development process and how we wanted to position it, because we didn't want to look like every bank. We didn't want to just one of the things I joke about are the pictures with the big checks.
Hmm.
I didn't want the brand to be the company that just says we made a donation here. Here's a picture of us with the giant check with the dollar amount that we gave. I wanted to work for a company that actually was getting there and doing the hard work and participating in things that they were passionate about. And our employees were already doing that. We just had to figure out a way that we could tell the story a little bit better. And then the Crane Cares brand kind of helped tell that story a little bit, and then also spoke to our goals with member service, which is again trying to listen to every member individually and be empathetic to what they are trying to achieve with their life, whether it's um, something like saving for retirement, or something as daily as just trying to manage their personal finances and set a budget and make those things work. And caring about that member is, uh, no matter what their situation is very important. And our staff was already doing it. We just need to find a way to make it part of our marketing strategy. And again, being able to tell those stories through social media and a little bit through the digital marketing side has helped resonate with that. One of our favorite things to do is we do a social media activity called Crane Compliments, hashtag Crane Compliments. And we ask our members to send stories in about the service that they've provided. And you read some really fantastic things that our staff has done for members,
That's awesome.
beyond just, hey, they listened when I had a question. Staff who have really gone above and beyond to help people out when they need it the most. And those stories are fun to promote, but they're also really humbling and sincere, and great to share with the staff that, hey, look what this member had to say about you. You really had an impact on something that you just did in your job every day, and that's great to see.
Yes, yes, I can imagine that is. I love the idea and the tactic of Crane compliments. I think that that's a phenomenal tactic. How else tactically are you telling these stories that Crane cares? You mentioned that members are already doing this, or excuse me, your team at Crane Credit Union is already doing this. How are you getting that material? Are you just sending somebody with a camera out? Is that person you? Are you taking pictures, film? Getting the stories, doing audio recordings. How and what are those tactics that you're leveraging to kind of aggregate those stories?
Well, that's really been the best part of it. Our staff has really taken hold of it. Um, we've kind of given them direction and a budget to go find things to do in their community. So every branch gets a certain amount of money that they can spend any way they choose. There's a few parameters in there, but everyone that works here can use their best judgment and just get involved in things that they want to, that either they're very passionate about, or try to work on a specific need in their community. And we don't require that the teams take photos of anything. We certainly like to hear about the activities, but we don't try and force the marketing aspect of it. But the staff has really run with that for us, and they do take photos. They, like anything else, they like to see that stuff featured on Facebook
Mhm.
and Twitter and Instagram. They like to see it. They love to represent the company well, and really what they do is they kind of send a summary of what they did, and they'll send a few pictures, and then I post it online, or the other employee in our department does, and that's the extent of it. We've had the opportunity to work on some bigger projects organization wide. A couple years ago, we worked with a news station, one in Terre Haute and one in Evansville, which are pretty large communities in Indiana, to give school supplies to local schools. And we did that a couple times a month during the school year, and partnered with the TV stations for a marketing component to that. But they would go and shoot the video for us, and we would literally go surprise a classroom and a teacher with school supplies, and that was a lot of fun. And the foundation to be able to do that type of activity was a big part of Crane. Being able having the freedom to go do that, and then just finding great partners in our communities to help make that work. So that was a project that was a lot of fun, and from a marketing standpoint, that gave us a lot of great YouTube content, social media stuff that we were able to tell that story much better than we could ourselves.
Amazing. I love it. Michael, I think that that's one big nugget that people can take away today is to let internal users generate the content. I think a lot of people have heard of user generated content, but I don't hear it a lot that the marketing team or the marketing leadership like yourself says, hey, here's your budget, do whatever you want. We're not looking just for publicity here. Make an impact. And if you happen to take pictures or you happen to get video footage, let us know, share it with us, and we'll share that on the corporate Facebook page or in the corporate YouTube channel and so on. I think that's absolutely brilliant. That's very, very cool to sort of decentralize the content generation that way. I think that's awesome.
Well, we're fairly spread out as a company. I mean, we have employees pretty much all over the southwest portion of the state, and I work more towards the Indianapolis area. So there's really no way for me to coordinate all that activity or keep it all straight. You really have to depend on the team to go do that. And I will say that it's nothing that I did personally. It's really just who our folks are and what they do, and really what brings them a lot of excitement and joy. And some of the stories I get really blown away by. I mean, it's been several years ago now, but we had an especially just harsh winter here in Indiana, and we had a day where we were just having these record cold temperatures and everything. And I'm sitting here one day, and I get an email from our staff members that said, "Oh yeah, we got together and gave hats and coats to kids who needed them in one of these schools." And it was great timing because it's right before temperatures are gonna get really cold. And that's those are fairly common things that you see organizations do. Give coats to kids, and we're actually doing one of those promotions right now in Terre Haute. But then I found out that the staff members had actually like knitted the hats,
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, they don't understand how awesome that is. But it's just another component to that story that, I mean, I can go to Walmart or Target and buy those things, and I can't knit, but one of our employees did, and that's what they did to help these kids. And that goes just so much beyond your responsibilities as an employee or what you do. It's just who you are as a person and as an individual, and
Absolutely.
it just comes through in the activities that they do. So I'm in a lot of cases I'm just the messenger here, just for great people doing some really wonderful things.
That's awesome. I love it, Michael. I think that's phenomenal. So, would you say the school donation side of things has been one of the most successful ways that you've been able to outreach and sort of gain some publicity while being charitable? Or is there another campaign, maybe over your financial brand career, that stands out as being the rock star campaign so far for you that just really took the credit union from one place and exemplified it and grew it into something else based off of a marketing campaign?
Well, the school supply donations we called Education Essentials, and that started in Terre Haute with their TV station there, and we were able to build that in the Evansville area as well. That was certainly one that we achieved a lot of scale uh, without really adding a lot of internal resources. We were able to
Wonderful.
have their teams videotape it and do the interviews for us, and make sure it got on the air in those markets. Of course, we got the content as part of that as well. We were able to partner with one of our vendors to buy the school supplies at a lower cost than we could get somewhere else. So from a from being able to do a pretty wide scale project with just kind of the existing things that we had on hand was pretty great. We did see that, some people were starting to kind of recognize us in those communities for that activity. And as we did more and more, you would find classrooms and teachers who had seen the previous stories, so they were really excited to be included. But it was one of the things that it was really interesting about it was just was how real that activity was. And we certainly like to reach out to potential consumers who have financial needs, and especially ones that have lending needs, and who are in the market to buy new homes and new cars. And typically those are a little bit younger consumers who have school age kids and things like that. And we would go and talk to these teachers, and you'd hear these stories about how they would be at Walmart or some other store, looking for supplies in like the clearance bins, and how they were having to keep their classroom stocked with their own money and what they had out of pocket. So it kind of turned into a really big campaign for us from an advocacy standpoint of really trying to fix this problem that we were seeing in our state, and telling their story more than anything. But you got some really emotional reactions out of those teachers, because you saw how hard it was on them, not only as as a teacher, but also as just a regular person, just trying to do the best they could. So I don't think we foresaw that being a big part of it, but it was certainly a lot of fun. It's fun working with little kids, and visiting them and surprising them. And we joke that it kind of really throws a wrench in their school day. Those are always so structured, and we come in with treats and school supplies and have a lot of fun with it. And then if you look at our YouTube page, you'll see a lot of the stories that we did. And usually in most of those cases, you get the chance to interview the kids on camera, and you always get some fun stories out of that. And they think they're very famous and all that. But that was always fun to work with. Those were always exciting days to work here.
That's awesome, Michael. Speaking of kids, and definitely completely changing gears here, maybe too fast, but you've got a few kids of your own, right? What's the age range?
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
whole
yeah, go
bunch.
ahead.
I have a whole bunch. I have
A whole
four
bunch.
boys. I have four boys, 12, 8, 6, and 4. I
All
think that,
boys.
yeah,
Holy cow.
I think that's right. We have a birthday about every other month, but yeah, but they're fantastic. Two of them are just starting their basketball season, so uh, we're pretty busy with that right now, and with the pandemic, just trying to make sure everyone stays healthy and stays in school as much as they can. So
hmm
so yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, they're a lot of fun, and they're my biggest fans for sure.
Awesome. So when you're done with your credit union work and you go home at the end of the day, you hang your hat up as VP of marketing. What's that like with four boys? Are they all just right there ready to party with dad, or what's tell me a little bit about their personalities.
The personalities are all different. That's for sure. They're all very unique kids, and they're all into their different things. But I don't think they really care so much about what dad does. They know where I work, and they know kind of what I do. But one of the funny stories recently, my 8-year-old, we've just been through this election, and they've watched the news along with us, and they pick up on things. And I was recently promoted to vice president, and I was pretty excited about it. But trying to tell the kids, hey, daddy got a promotion, and that's good news for our family. And daddy's pretty happy about it. And my 8-year-old Cole, he kind of sits there puzzled for a second. He looks at me and he says, "So you're a vice president?" And I go, "Yeah." And he asked if the credit union president died, if I became president, or if the president was unable to fulfill his duties, if I would take over. And I said, no, it doesn't really work like that. But that kind of puts you in your place, if you will. That yeah, no, daddy is responsible for making sure the Xbox works, and that the Wi-Fi is functioning properly. That's where I earn the most points. If either of those things go down, I'm usually in trouble. and they all agree. They all agree that that I make better tacos than my wife. So
You
so
got that going for you.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Really,
That's awesome.
I'm fulfilling the need at home in
There
those
you go.
ways.
Better tacos. That's a good need. Taco Tuesdays, right? So Michael, we were talking a little bit before the show, and it sounds like you're amazing at definitely getting the story out of people, very empathetic in your professional life, but it also carries over into home life. I noticed looking through your LinkedIn profile and learning more about you that you also have a couple of nonprofits, or at least one nonprofit that's pretty predominant in your life outside of work. Would you care to sort of detail what that is and how people can help and what you guys need? And let's talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, so certainly talk about kids. I have four boys at home. Our 6-year-old Owen, he had a twin brother named Sawyer who passed away about 8 weeks after he was born.
Oh my
So that
goodness.
was in
Oh, I'm so sorry.
oh, thank you. So that was June 2014.
Mm,
And it was certainly unexpected, and nothing that our family had anticipated, but it certainly had a pretty big impact on how I spend my time. Prior to that, I didn't do a lot of charitable activity, not a lot of volunteer stuff, but through Sawyer's passing, I got really involved with two organizations. The first of which is Little Angel Gowns, which is a nonprofit in the Indianapolis area that takes basically donated wedding dresses and other formal attire, and we have a volunteer team of seamstresses who turns those into burial gowns for
wow.
infants, for boys and girls. So I've been able to
That's
be
beautiful. That's
um,
incredible.
thank you. I don't do a lot as a board member, certainly not as much as our seamstresses do. They are incredible, the stuff that they come up with, but I'm proud to be an advocate for that organization and to help in any way that I can. So I've been involved with them for several years. And Sawyer was also an organ donor. So I have done a little bit of volunteer work with the Indiana Donor Network, and had the chance to go speak to um, high schools and some other local organizations about organ donation and kind of our family story. But that's definitely something I probably wouldn't have had any knowledge of or interest in until it became a really big part of our family, and something we're very proud about, of Sawyer. And we talk about him a lot in that aspect with his brothers, that what he was able to do for another family. And again, stuff like that just kind of shapes your life and your character and what you do, and impacts what you do. And those are two great organizations to be part of, and who are doing very well, and just really helping people when they need it most. So it's a big impact. He's a big part of our family, and again, just a very strong brotherhood. But it's great. It's
Amazing.
and you see the best part about that experience for us is you see a lot of the greatness in people, especially in times like now where we seem very divided and have a lot of differences. When things like that happen
Mhm.
to you, all you feel is love and appreciation from people. So it's always there.
Sure. Yeah. Those differences don't matter when it really comes down to family and to life itself. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Michael. Can you tell us a little bit more about Little Angel Gowns? Where can people go to find out more? Where can they go to help, to contribute, and to donate? I guess.
Yeah, if you Google Little Angel Gowns, it shows right up. We just launched a new website at littleangelgowns.org, and that has all the information there for our organization, and some more information about how you can get involved. We are always looking for donations. Certainly monetary donations go a long way to take care of what we need to keep the organization running, but we also do accept donated wedding gowns and other attire, and really just helping tell that story, because the instances where people find out about us are fairly, uh, you know they're not good days in people's lives. It's very tough, and just letting those people know that an organization like that exists to help them is really key for what we want to do. And we send gowns out across the country, send gowns out every day, and just letting people know that resources there makes a big difference. So check it out there. We'd love for you to
Okay.
check it out. The new website's great. So um, yeah, give it a look.
Wonderful. Yes, will do. Yes. Thank you, Michael. I have never experienced anything like that. So I feel like I don't truly understand how, even if I could imagine it, I don't know what that's like. And I've heard it said that when one loses a spouse, they're either a widow or a widower, but there's really no words at all that can define losing a child. So my condolences go to you and those who do have that. I have a few friends who lost children, and it's incredibly sad. Your outlook seems very happy. I love how you've transformed your life. You mentioned that you're more empathetic and that you want to help organizations like the donor organization, Little Angel Gowns, and you're absolutely incredible with what you've turned that terrible loss into, Michael. So I admire you for that. Thank you for sharing that story with us.
Well, I
today.
think that I think anyone who finds themselves in that situation, it's hard to find other people who, especially in that moment, are going through it. But over time, as people figure that out about you, you find similar people who have gone through the same thing and can kind of understand it. But it's all about what we've been able to do with it as a family, and how it influences us. And it's an important lesson to teach the boys to do good things for people, and be kind and be nice. And when someone needs a meal, you go take them a meal, and it can be as simple as that. But just listening and being there is a huge part of it. And again, how that's transcended into the work I get to do every day here at the credit union with our community activities and things like that. It all comes together. So that's a big part of working at Crane. And again, from a marketing standpoint, how we try to portray ourselves to the community. And again, feel like we're just getting started, and the future is really bright, especially with the new banks we're bringing on board and the new communities we get to serve. So feels like starting all over again.
Absolutely. Wow. Michael, is there anything else you would like to share with us today before we wrap?
Yeah, James, it's been a lot of fun. I think this, I think you're going to have a great podcast for sure. For all the listeners there who are not credit union members, we have a big cooperative campaign going on now across the country to try and get more people interested in credit unions. Take a look. If you're not in Central and Southern Indiana and it's not Crane, there's a bunch of other credit unions out there. So we love to educate people and let them know that there's another choice out there, especially if you're going through some financial stress right now. It's always good to talk to someone and see what you can do with it. So contact your local credit union. And if you're in Indiana, find a Crane location. Come in and see us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show, Michael. The show wouldn't be good without guys like you chiming in and sharing what they're doing behind the scenes when they're not being a marketer, but also sharing all of the deep knowledge that they've developed as a marketer. So thank you so much for your time today, Michael. You are incredible. I'm excited to air this show soon, and we'll call that a wrap.